English 10 Quarter 3 Module 2 is about writing techniques. Early on, we already had talked about informative writing, that's Module 2B, as one of the writing techniques. This time for Module 2B, we will be dealing with persuasive writing. What is persuasive writing? What do we mean when we say persuade? Persuasive writing is when you use your language skill to convince someone to agree with your opinion or take a specific action. So persuasive from the word persuade meaning convince. So atong i-convince ang readers nga mo agree sa atong opinion nga atong gisuwat sa ato ang paper. Or di ba kaha they would make an action, do something after reading your persuasive essay. So muna, persuasive writing is convincing someone to agree with your opinion or to take a specific action. Persuasive writing is a written form of an oral debate. We'll know in a debate na ay mga exchange of ideas and then you are going to convince the audience nga kanang imuhang stand sa issue is correct. So somehow, persuasive writing is like that, pero gisuwat lang siya. A writer can convince a reader that his opinion of the topic is correct. Furthermore, the reader should understand what the writer wants to say. So what is the difference between persuasion and argumentation? Unsay kalahian aning duha? Well, both of them attempts to convince readers. Sa persuasion ug argumentation, kaning duha ni attempt to convince ang readers. However, when we talk about persuasion, it appeals to readers' emotions. So, mo gini pinaka-highlight sa persuasion, ni target igunta sa atong emotions to make the readers believe something or take specific action. Persuasion can also use logic and evidence. Example, imagine the life of an abandoned house pet. Unwanted, hungry, and cold. Your donation to an animal shelter can make all the difference. Now, in this part, if we imagine the life of an abandoned house pet, abandoned meaning unwanted siya, gigutom siya, gitugnaw siya, what emotions can we feel towards this abandoned house pet? Maybe one can think of naluoy, makaluluoy no, kay gigutom in town, gitugnaw. So, here, in this example, we are being targeted sa atuang emotions, kay naluoy ta, ginahanta mo tabang. Therefore, your donation to an animal shelter can make all the difference. Kaning part is making us do something, not take specific action sa persuasion. So because it targets our emotions, we are somehow convinced as well to do something about it. Meaning, your donation to an animal shelter can make all the difference. Urgent it kay siya. Argumentation, on the other hand, relies on logic and evidence to build a case for a specific claim. This de-emphasizes appeals to emotion. So, muna siya ang biggest kalahian, no? Sa persuasion, ang iyag yung target, iyag yung highlight diri kay igunta sa atong emotions ang persuasion. Argumentation relies heavily on logic, reasoning, and evidence. Although sa persuasion natay logic and evidence, but it's more highlighted sa argumentation. O sa argumentation, wala na ning emotion. Persuasion ray na ana. Example, communities without animal shelters often struggle to control the proliferation of stray and feral dogs and cats. So here, it relies on logic, mga reasoning gid siya. Wala siya emotional appeal nga somehow matouch ta, nga maka-feel tag emotions. Because here again, argumentation is relying heavily on logic and evidence. So let me share to you this Venn diagram to show the similarities and differences of persuasion and argumentation. Let's start first sa tunga. This is their similarities, meaning both persuasion and argumentation have this. So both of them attempts to convince the readers, no? So silang duha mo convince sa readers about the topic. Both of them also has logic and needs evidences. So mo ni ilang pagkapareha, but also ilang kalahian. Sa persuasion, the writer starts with a strong opinion and researches reasons to support it. So magsugod siya sa strong opinion and then later on iya na nang i-present ang mga reasons nganong mauna ang iyang opinion. However, sa argumentation, the writer starts with a topic, researches and discusses all sides of the issue, and then chooses one side to support. So, sa argumentation, present diri ang both sides of the issue. Yasang gi-present ang pros and cons sa issue before siya ni saysay sa iyahang side nga gipili. Therefore, ang argumentation outlines multiple sides of the issue. However, sa persuasion, wala gipakita ang pika side. Ang imo raging opinion sa topic ang imuhang gisaysay diri and then state the reasons nganong maunang imong opinion. Okay? Another difference is sa persuasion, it appeals to readers' emotion. So, muna kong sulti ganina, no? When we say persuasion, appeals to readers with emotion gyud. Kay mo gini ang makapalahi gyud nilang duha. Sa persuasion, it's more on emotions. Targeton ta sa tong emotions. Somehow we feel something. And then, persuasion also calls the readers to action. So, aside from igniting pukawon atong mga emotions, sa persuasion pod would make us want to do something. Kay na-trigger naman ta sa tong emotion, ginahan na ta to take action. Ana sa persuasion. Furthermore, sa persuasion, it uses passionate, urgent writing voice. Kay passionate man, di ba, when we are passionate, we are still connecting to the emotions. So, kung tag passionate, meaning, mo-appeal ta sa emotions sa readers and there's urgent writing voice. Urgent meaning, dapat paspas, action agad. Kay, it calls readers to action man. Argumentation, on the other hand, uses kalma lang ni, calm, neutral writing voice. The basic structure of a persuasive text, just like any other forms of writing, might be an essay, na agid ni ang tulo ka part. We have the introduction, body, and conclusion. Balik-balik yuta ani. But this time, let us talk about unsay content sa introduction, body, and conclusion when we write persuasive writing. So sa introduction, this is the main stage from where the reader understands the basis of the thesis. Therefore, it should be simple and catchy. So sa introduction, from the word introduction, meaning imong gi-present una, kung unsa di ang topic all about. Ug unsa nga side ang imuhang gipili. Unsay imong opinion sa topic, diri makit-an. Kani imuhang thesis, that is your opinion of the topic. Therefore, it should be simple and catchy. Take note when you write any forms of essay, it should be catchy. Introduction should be catchy. Ngano man, kay kung dili ninmo ninduton pagsuwat imong introduction, kung dili ka maka-capture sa attention sa readers, di na sila ginahan motiwas og basa. So make sure that your introduction is simple and catchy. Next part is the body. So, ang body forms the volume of the persuasion. Naa diri isaysay ang imong mga arguments, imong mga reasons nganong mauna nga muna imong opinion sa topic. So, it includes an argument along with at least 3 evidence supporting each argument. So, the argument here refers to your reason. Reason number 1, nganong nakaingon ka atong imong opinion, nganong nakaingon ka atong imong thesis or side sa issue imong gipili. Dayon, dapat na ay at least 3 ka ebidensya sa kada reason nga imong ibutang sa imong paper. And then, conclusion, that's the repetition of the main points, meaning imuhang ibalik. The conclusion of the essay should repeat the main points. As a result, it is the only element which justifies your thesis. So, this is like a review of your thesis. Sum it all up. Summary ni siya. Moving on, let's talk about the different techniques to use in persuasive writing. So first, here we have attacks. The writer attacks an opponent or an idea. He puts down persuasion techniques against the opponent or idea. Attacks can attempt to embarrass or insult an opponent. So, usa sa mga techniques gamito nato when we write a persuasive writing kay attacks. So, it is meant to attack or it attempts to embarrass para mapakauwawan or mainsulto ang opponent or ang idea. Example, anyone who judges other people based on race is unfair and foolish. So, this part here, unfair and foolish, is attempting to embarrass or insult the person nga mo judge sa laing tao base sa ilahang race. So, muna no, straightforward kay ba? Mo-attack gidayon siya. And again, this is persuasive because it appeals to our emotion. Unfair and foolish. Number 2, we have cliches. It is a term that has been overused to the extent that they are commonly understood by society. So, cliches are kanang common na dyan kay na siya karon kay balik-balik na gina siya og sulti sa mga tao. That to the extent nga they are commonly understood by society na. Example, honesty is the best policy. It's a cliche kay raglata na kay na balik-balik na kay na sigsulti sa mga tao, no? Still, it is talking about persuasion. It deals with your emotion. Another example here. It is not the destination that matters most, but the journey along the way. Now, that is still a cliche. Common na kay ni, balik-balik na kaayo ni siya nga thought, nga wording. So, muna siya. It is not the destination that matters most, but the journey along the way. Next, emotive language. So, technique ni siya in writing persuasive essay. Kay, when we use emotive language, we are using words to create an emotional impact or response from the audience purposely. The writer uses emotive language in order to have a great emotional impact on their audience. So, emotive language, igo jud kay ni siya, kay nganuman, again, persuasive writing or persuasion deals with or targets or it appeals the emotions of the readers. That is why it is important for us to use words nga makaigo ta sa emotions sa readers. Example, this disastrous situation will not only get worse unless we do something about it. So the word here, disastrous, somehow can evoke an emotional impact or response from the audience. Nganuman, we know how it feels kung naay disaster. Diba? Kasuway na ta, anang linog, anong tong bagyong Odette. We know how difficult that was. So this evokes emotion, maka-create ni siya og emotional response sa mga audience. It could be kung naay disastrous situation, unsay atong ma-feel, makadungog tag disastrous situation, ay disaster, mahadlok, makuyawan, makulbaan, kay di lalim. So this disastrous situation will not only get worse. So ang kani kunong disaster situation, posible ni siya nga mo samot pa unless natay buhaton about it. So again, emotive language mo gamit og mga words to create an emotional impact. The fourth technique is evidence. So of course, when we write persuasive essay, diba, it also deals with logic and evidence. So sa persuasive writing, again, na ay topic, muhatag ta sa atong opinion of that topic, and then we provide evidences nganong or reasons nganong kana ang atuang opinion. So sa evidences, naatay to look at main types. We have anecdotal, expert opinion, and statistical evidence. So, unsa ning anecdotal evidence? Collecting the evidence in an informal manner and relying entirely on personal testimony. It helps the writer to support an argument and to make themselves appear more credible. So, anecdotal, when we say anecdote, that's a short, funny story or story that really happened nimo, personal experience, based on personal experience nimo. So, kanang imuhang personal testimony or personal experience could be used as an evidence in writing persuasive essay. For example, you know, when I was a kid, my dog was my best friend. My childhood was better because of him. So this is an example of anecdotal evidence because this is a personal testimony, personal experience of the writer. No? And this is used to support the opinion sa writer. Sa example, say for example, ang topic ani is about best friends, who your best friend is. So para niya, pagbata pa kuno niya, iyang dog ang iyang best friend, na iyang childhood was better because of him. So anecdotal evidence ni siya kay again based on relying on personal testimony. Another evidence is expert opinion. From the word expert, sa mga eksperto, mga banggiitan na sila ana nga field. To make a writer's position seem more credible, they may quote the opinions of experts that correspond with their own. Meaning, sa expert opinion as evidence, pidita magpalaban sa expert ana nga field para mas lig-on, mas credible ang atuang side nga gipili, itong opinion sa topic. Example, teenagers are becoming more rebellious as they enter childhood. As they enter adulthood, mangoro ne? Anong childhood? Says child psychologist Jean Marie. So, sa kani nga statement, natay expert opinion because nagpalaban na ta sa usa ka child psychologist nga si Jean Marie nga sakto kayo, swak kayo siya sa kani nga topic. So, manang expert opinion, palaban ta sa mga eksperto, unsay mga quotations, unsay mga ideas sa ilang libro, or we may get those quotes, those words from experts and use them as evidences. So, expert opinion na siya. The third main type of evidence is statistical evidence. These are numerical proof of an argument. When we say numerical, it involves numbers. So, sa statistical, from the word statistics, meaning magpalabantag mga numero. It is showed through the bar diagram, graphs, and statistics. Example, a recent survey found that 90% of students favored no school uniforms at all. So asa dapita ang gigamitan og statistical evidence ani nga statement. Ang naay number kani 90%. So maning statistical evidence magpalaban tag mga studies nga naay mga numbers, like example, 8 out of 10 Filipino women use whisper with wings, ana ba? So naagi numerical data, na numerical proof sa argument nga naay mga survey kuno, mga studies, dayon naay number nga atong mapakita diri. Mao nang statistical evidence. The fifth technique used in persuasive writing is hypothetical evidence. So when we say hypothetical evidence, it is based on claims typically based on a what if statement. What if? So when we say hypothetical, always remember what if gid na siya. Example, name sortin mo nga, just a hypothetical question lang. What if panakipbutas rin ay ka, char. So when we say hypothetical, mga what if na sila. Example, what if the world ends tomorrow? So this again is a technique to use when we write persuasive writing or essay. Kaya nga naman, it somehow makes a person be emotional, or it evokes emotions or emotional response sa mga readers. So unsa kay emotions katong ma-feel when we hear the line, what if the world ends tomorrow? So somehow maybe people might feel makulbaan, makuyawan, or maybe some would makapahinuktok nga magbag-o na, magbinutan na, char. Kaya what if? So hypothetical evidence, what if? Next, we have rhetorical question. These are types of question asked in order to create a dramatic effect. So it's a question asked in order to create a dramatic effect or to make a point rather than to get an answer. The idea here is not to receive an answer, but to give stress on a point. So rhetorical question is given when we give rhetorical question, ang atong point dili kay nangita jud tag tubag sa ato ang pangutana, anang question na. Rather, it is asked in order to create a dramatic effect or make a point, rather than receiving an answer. Naatay gi-emphasize ra diri, naatay point nga gi-emphasize, maunang naghatag tag rhetorical question, but we are not really after of an answer. Example, do we want our children growing up in a world where people threaten them with violence on every street corner? So here, this is an example of a rhetorical question. Kaning pangutanaha is not really asked para tubagon sa mga tao. Rather, gihatag ni nga pangutana because it emphasizes something, na asya point nga ginahan i-emphasize or i-stress. This is about the safety and security of the environment or the place that they're living in, diba? Next technique is appeals. A writer uses this persuasive technique to appeal to the reader's sense of logic, emotion, and ethics. The main objective is to persuade the reader to agree with the writer's point of view. So, sa appeal, meaning diri gitarget, diri ta giigo sa atoang sense of logic, emotion, and ethics. So, unsa dining logic, emotion, and ethics? We'll get to know that on the next slide. We can appeal to other people in different ways to convince them to agree with our opinion. There are three persuasive appeals, or what we call the modes of persuasion. We have logos, pathos, and ethos. So kaning tulo, kaning logos, pathos, and ethos are the modes of persuasion. Let's first talk about logos. Logos, so remember logos, logic. So logos appeals to logic and reasoning. So how does it work? It encourages people to think rationally, meaning reason siya, and use their logic with sense. It strengthens an argument by using factual information. So logos appeals to logic and reasoning, kay nga naman it uses factual information. It is logical, it is rational, it is with reasons. So how do we write our persuasive essay that has logos, or it appeals to logic and reasoning? How? We may use quotes from experts on the topic, mention well-known theories or facts, include reliable sources for data and statistics, use real-life examples to make the topic relatable. So, muna siya ang mga strategies. Actually, kaninga part is not found in the module. This is just an additional information on how we can apply logos, or the appeal to logic and reasoning, in writing persuasive essay. So the next mode of persuasion is pathos. Pathos appeals to emotions and ideals. How does it work? It makes the audience feel specific emotions, typically fear, sadness, sympathy, happiness, and anger. It supports an ideal the audience feels strongly about. So, remember when we say pathos, it has something to do with emotions and ideals. Now, looking back, asa kaha between persuasion and argumentation ang mogamit og pathos? Appeals to emotions. Is it argumentation or persuasion nga mo-appeal sa emotions? Meaning nigamit siya mode nga pathos. Persuasion or argumentation? The answer is, ang mogamit og pathos kay it appeals to emotions man kay persuasion. Ang argumentation walay pathos kay di man siya into emotions. Logos ramang yun na siya, logic and evidence man to, diba? So pathos appeals to emotions, so this is mostly sa persuasive writing. Here are the writing strategies when we use pathos as our mode of persuasion. We have use emotionally charged language and tone. Mention anecdotes and stories. Use vivid descriptions to paint a picture for your audience. Use figurative language. Example, simile, metaphor, hyperbole, etc. The last mode, but definitely not the least, is ethos. So ethos appeals to credibility. Credible. Muna siya. How does it work? It builds trust and respect between the writer and the audience. It strengthens the argument by building credibility. Kasalikan mo ng ethos. How do we apply ethos or appeals to credibility when writing? Here we have, be careful to use appropriate language, spelling, punctuation, and grammar, and build your personal credibility. So, You have to be careful in using appropriate language, spelling, punctuation. Kay bisag ako when I read at labels, kung nagay wrong spelling, mura na kog magduduhag tuo. Yung spelling lagi ni. So, muna ang credibility masaligan ba ni or dili would really be affected. So, for you to have ethos, you have to be careful in your language, your spelling, punctuation, and grammar. Another strategy is mention references to credible sources of information, awards, and achievements. So, if you mention references or the source where you got those information ng inyong gamit sa inyong essay, then it will make your paper, your points credible, kasaligan. But again, you have to make sure that your references are coming from legit, mga credible sources of information. Di lang kay mga Wikipedia, Brainly, ChatGPT, kana kay di na kasaligan. Kay pwede ra bisag kinsa, bisag dili expert ana nga field, maka-edit, maka-answer. So di na siya reliable. So make sure that your references came from credible or legit or reliable sources of information. Moving on, we have the 10 common persuasive appeals. First, we have added value. Kinsay target audience aning added value? The adult, collectors, persons with limited resources. Example aning added value is buy one, get one free. So, somehow, persuasive appeal siya, maka-convince ni siya, madanita nga, mupalit og usa ka butang bisag di kay nang importante. Kay for example na ay shampoo baron, buy one get one free. Kay ang target ani mga persons with limited resources, kani kay makatipid ta ani, so madanita nga mupalit, kay nay added value, buy one get one free. Another persuasive appeal is adventure or challenge. So, kinsang target audience aning adventure or challenge? Younger people, the males. Example, join the Navy and see the world. So, the appeal here is adventure or challenge. So, ang gi-target ani ang mga younger people. Kay mga adventurous pa kay ba? Init pa kay dugo. Muna gihilig kayo mga challenges. Another persuasive appeal, we have argument or comparison. Kinsa ang target audience ani nga appeal or pamaagi para ma-convince, ma-persuade ta? Ang mga confronted people. People who like to compete, comparison shoppers. So, muna siya, example aning argument or comparison, fight back against high prices. Nga, i-compare nimo asa ang mas barato, asa ka mas makatipid. Mga yellow label nga naa sa groceryhan. Next, companionship or attraction. That's another persuasive appeal. Kinsay target aning companionship or attraction? Kaning mga single people. Kaway-kaway sa mga single, char. Mga camp followers. Example, a camera built for every moment. So, this is an example of companionship or attraction because somehow it appeals to kanang you're feeling bisag ikaw ra usa, kay somehow in this example nakay kakuyog-kuyog, maka-capture gyapon ka sa kada moment imong paglaglaag, for example sa imong sa imuhang point sa kinabuhi nga inyong mapicturan. Munang companionship or attraction ang appeal, ang gitarget ana kanang mga single people, kanang apil-apil og mga camps. Another, fear or safety. Persuasive appeal, fear or safety. Kinsang target audience varies, meaning bisag kinsa lang. Because we people it's just normal for us to feel fear nga mahadlok ta or that we want to be safe. So, ang target audience, pwede ra bisag kinsa. Example, aning fear or safety, seat belts save lives. So, this is an example of fear or safety because this is promoting na kinahanglan gid ta mag seatbelt kay maka-save kuno na sa kinabuhi in case accidents will happen. So, again, persuasive appeal is fear or safety. Kay example ani niya, seatbelt saves lives. Another common persuasive appeal is guilt. So, target audience varies. Pwede ra bisag kinsa ma-guilt, maka-feel og guilt or makonsensya. Example, don't buy life insurance for yourself. Buy it for those left behind. So, see, in this example, gitarget ang gi-appeal, dili ta giigo sa atuang guilt that when we buy life insurance, dili para sa atuang kaugalingon na siya, para na sa mga atong mabinlan. Char. Next, we have loyalty, persuasive appeal. Varies pod ang target audience, pwede ra bisag kinsa nga maigo aning dapat loyal jud ta. Example, buy American. Dapat kay labitang mga Pilipino mas mo prefer baya ta kung naay local products ug naay kanang mga imported, ari kita sa mga imported. Kay nindot ko no. Mas loyal sa imported brands kaysa sa ato ang local products. That is why there are also mga taglines nga maingon support local. Ana, dapat loyal jud ta ani nga brand. Ana ba? Kamo nang loyalty igunta sa kana nga aspect. Another appeal, persuasive appeal, empowerment or independence. Target audience, we have young people, women, disadvantaged, free spirits. So, how is this shown? Example, take charge of your future, enroll in night classes, enroll in Pasil Night High School. Char. So, ngano man, kay ang uban ana, kanang para maka trabaho pa ka inig buntag, char mo ng empowerment o independence. So, dira ka giigo sa kay kung ginahan kag independent ka, ginahan kag empowered ka, take charge of your future, enroll in night classes man example ani. Another persuasive appeal is pride or vanity, vain. Example kanang mga ang target audience aning pride or vanity kanang mga social climbers, mga teenagers or mga young and adults. No ni ang target audience aning appeal. Example, you deserve the best. Dapat ang pride gud ani nga you deserve the best gyud kanay gyud nga product because you deserve the best. No? Muna siya. And then the last common persuasive appeal mentioned in the module is reverence or worship. Target audience aning reverence or worship kay bisag kinsa ra nga mga tao. Example, 9 out of 10 hospitals give Tylenol to their patients. So, reverence or worship meaning mas daghang mga tao ang ginahan ang mugamit ani nga product. Mas ginahan sila, mas mo prefer sila ani nga product. So, 9 out of 10 hospitals give Tylenol to their patients. So, those are the 10 common persuasive appeals. So, do you have any questions before we end Module 2B? If none, then this would be the last slide. The most effective persuasive writing uses a mix of these appeals, depending on your audience and goal. So experiment and have fun.